I mean, it's always going to be iffy, I think, whenever whenever you're trying to deal with figuring out how to get this Mercury away from your backline. But one thing's for sure, I didn't hate the Zeus pick at all for Oceans. I actually would not be surprised to see Luminosity even potentially looking to go back to it. I just don't think that the Sobek Kuzumbo, while those are two really strong Guardians, were able to really work together this time around. But that really just boiled down to, I think, SK having too much backline pressure.
Just might be. We'll see if things turn around here in Game 2. SK still with the first pick of the first ban, and continuing to look towards the Mollusk as they ban out that Ratatasker. Again, understanding that you've got tape to watch, and Mollusk, when he gets Rat, just gets first blood, and usually second blood, and LG wins some of those games, and even the ones that they don't win, it's usually hard fought for the squad that looks to turn it around.
I'm almost wondering if perhaps this time around, instead of taking that Hachiman in the second and third, like Luminosity did last time, maybe they just look for that Ganesh instead. Because one thing that has definitely worked out super well for Luminosity is the Zeus with the Ganesh specifically. And so if one or the other is missing, it seems to cause a lot of problems. But Luminosity, I think, trying to already remedy the situation, and they're just going to take that Ganesh right away.
But they are going to leave the Zeus on the table. The question now is SK Gaming. Do they have a mid lane that wants to play the Zeus?
I don't think so.
Is there a world where Zapman plays the Zeus?
I would hope not. I think I speak for everybody when I say that we would all much rather see Zapman just play Hunters.
I agree. The reason I bring that up is because we have seen mages kind of shoved over there in that side lane before. Most notably, the new Wa, Emilito, and Zapman have played it before. The Vulcan makes a showing every now and then. Shout out Snoopy out there in the SML. So that's why I brought up the Zeus. But LG, they have their choice, and they're going to go with the Sobek.
Zeus, a little bit of a bigger stretch, though, I think, than even Poseidon. You know,
Sure.
I think we could probably see the Zap Poseidon before we see any Zap Zeus. But with Sobek having been locked in, I mean, that's definitely an established front line for Luminosity. And it's not even necessarily a guarantee that Zeus is going to be the mid laner of choice here.
Do you ban it if you're SK?
I think it'd still be a smart choice to take away, just because Luminosity has had proven success with Ganesh Zeus, but SK also have Camazotz Achilles,
Right.
and I think that duo alone could certainly serve as a strong deterrence against Zeus already.
We'll see where SK choose to go. Right now, option is on their side. The Circuit will be banned out. LG jungler still being looked at. The Shibalake, sure, is banned, but that's a team ban, and then 2 junglers.
I was thinking maybe Soul for Luminosity here.
Interesting.
I would love to see Oceans on Soul again, man. It's the guy that he really started making a name for himself in the rank scene back when he came back, because Oceans did play Smite once upon a time ago under the alias of Turnip.
Oh, right.
For some of you who might be a little bit OG enough to remember that, and when he came back, he was Oceans, and he was just all over the place. Everybody thought he was a Smurf account in rank because the guy was just dominating on this Soul. Of course, the guy was a little bit differently back then. You know, she had the Fatalis effect and everything, which was, you know, quite an interesting time in Smite. But even now, I still feel as though the Soul, the Separate would be a strong tool against both Camazotz and the Achilles. It give it a little bit of that reflective damage as well when they try to follow you right on top of that trail, and I think that she does pretty well against Raijin because the Supernova and the Stellar Burst are both lined up if Raijin ever tries to go for the Taiko drums.
Certainly fair. LG on the clock now. Ganesh and Sobek kind of locked down that support role. Hachiman will wind up being either a carry or a mid laner. I think Hachi can flex in both positions. So now LG trying to figure out for sure a jungler. As creative as LG are, I think I can say with much fervor that Ganesh, Hachi, and Sobek likely won't be in the hands of the Mollusk.
It's obviously going to be a Thanatos for Mollusk here.
Yeah?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, you say that.
It's hard to tell because Thanatos would bring a lot of the early game pressure, but I think that Luminosity want a little bit more of the setup instead. They needed some of this hard crowd control, I think, and now the only thing that's truly missing from this comp is a big all-in burst mage and a lot of different mages left on the table still.
Thanatos also very scary into healers, and while Camazotz isn't a healer, he's certainly going to heal above your threshold, etc., etc. Batz, character that I think I've said a number of times, fear no evil, will always be relevant in competitive Smite. So, Batz, the selection here for Luminosity. Can't hate it. I think it's very hard to hate.
I would like to see a Rum again for Zap. I like the way that he was utilizing that Astral Barrage, kind of looking as a nice little cleanup tool.
Sure.
A lot of precision involved as well with some of those snipes, but additionally, it's the fact that Zap will be able to buy so much time for himself, but he's going to throw it all the way back.
The turn back. The turn back. Anhur, one of the more aggressive selections here, does have a CC immune ultimate to avoid some of that Batz nonsense. Definitely, when we talk old school Zap, this is the playstyle.
You know, this happened because Zap soloed Joshy.
Yes,
I
wholeheartedly agree.
There is no hunter in Smite that says, I just want to kill you in a 1v1 over and over again, except for Anhur.
I mean, so for those a little bit less familiar with the Pro League, a lot of times when the players come by, it used to be just for LAN. Now players are here all the time. It is very, very often that you see the 1v1 me bro situation, and it's always Anhur no tank items, right? Anhur is the
gentleman's joust is what we call it.
It's the honest man's hunter, and so SK gonna try to keep things above board and bring out the lion.
Well, Sylvanus, I think, is also going to prove to be slightly problematic for Mollusk, but the Sylvanus could also work against SK, because if I'm Luminosity, when I see that giant tree just getting picked up, that's looking like free plucks all day long for Xaliea, so really curious to figure out whether or not Luminosity intend to try and just burst down the front line from SK, because I think if the tree falls, everything else is bound to burn right with it.
Everybody's going to hear it, that's for sure. Agni, the last selection for Luminosity. I do love this choice. I think it provides them a little bit more control, even though they have a ton of it with Ganesha and Sobek and Batz. I think that LG have a full control composition, and I think this is very important for LG to be able to find these picks. We saw a very violent game, for lack of a better term. I'm expecting more kills. Without further ado, game number 2.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Taco. As you move into game number 2, it's the Agni selected for the mid lane. You know, it's weird. I was in the green room. Aggro and Hindu wouldn't shut up about how this was going to be Zeus, but it was the Agni, and I like it. It gives him such a strong 5v5 presence, I feel like, this whole comp.
Oh, it does. There's so much crowd control from LG, but it's a similar story to the last game where I'm kind of fearful for their early game. This Raijin out of Oceans specifically, or rather for Paul, is where it's going to matter for SK Gaming. In those little 4v4 scuffles around the blue buff, that's where SK Gaming truly shined, and I don't expect it to stop in game 2.
I don't think so. You were talking to me about it. Like, maybe this Raijin is part of that problem on the side of SK, and maybe this Agni can compete with that a little bit better. As soon as he's level 5, his impact is there, and he's ready to start contributing to some fights. So I don't know. I think LG might have a good chance here in this one. It really depends on, to me, how well they can make it through this early game. How quickly can get to the point where they're grouped up.
And I think that's why SK didn't ban away the Zeus, because they know that the Zeus wouldn't really contribute too much towards that early game, and that's the idea where SK want to be aggressive, and they kind of baited out that pick when they picked the Sylvanus for Neilmah. A great pick offensively or defensively, but he's kind of a sitting duck. Right, so it almost didn't matter what mage LG is picking when they already have setup between Xaliea, Sobek, Kiki's, Ganesh, and also Mollusk's Batz.
We have a ton of it, and SK Gaming have a ton of pressure. Sylvanus can help clear the way so well with those AoE autos. Then you add in Anhur, who can step right up to the wave and threaten you with the Impale. Very likely that as Hachiman and Ganesh, as good as they are, won't be able to quite keep up.
And last time, they didn't invade after clearing the wave. This time, they know exactly that Mollusk isn't going to be making this rotation. Purple buff invade going cleanly towards SK Gaming. Should be heading level 2 off of about 1 minion or so, and that's going to be a lot of pressure for them to continue to be offensive.
Yeah, and that time Mollusk hadn't even shown himself on the map yet. He was still very clearly going to be doing like the speed, backhammer, blue path. So they were like, yeah, let's just go grab this. When the other side, when the last game, SK certainly had some eyes. So they're like, maybe hold back as Oceans evades the poke there in the middle lane with the dash.
Oh, what a great pull right on top of Kiki, forcing out a defensive sprint, and it wasn't enough.
Zapman blows Kiki up, and you're right, that's all Neilmah setting that up with the pull, brings him right back in, even with the sprint. Nowhere for that poor Ganesh to go, and Zapman puts him down. I mean, We saw it in game 1. I think Zap feeling himself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And despite the name for Kikisocheeky, Neilmah's player cam after that kill, his face was looking a little cheeky there, honestly, after that pull. A great first blood onto Zapman that is playing the Anhur. And it's surprising to see Sam for Soccer playing this Camazotz, whereas Bellair on the Achilles. So now SK Gaming have revealed that they're willing to flex pick if they can get certain different matchups for Bellair.
Yeah, what was once thought of only as like a good matchup into King Arthur has just emerged as a good pick in his own right. And I think that they're correct. A lot of the times you worry when you pick this pick up because all it does is damage, and sometimes your team can miss. Like we saw last time, how impactful the Sonic Boom and Special Delivery as CC were for them for Sam. Maybe don't have that as much with Camazotz, but it doesn't matter when you've got control everywhere else.
That's true. When you have Sylvanus setting you up, Raijin as well, slowing you down potentially, or taunting you with the Taiko drums, that's enough of a setup to allow Sam for Soccer to be heavily burst-oriented. And good idea for SK Gaming to remain this aggressive. Kiki trying to do everything he can to avoid this pull, even forced to dash.
And he knows he had to or he'd have been in trouble. Purple buff is spawning, but Zap and Neil don't want to move in and aggress on that just yet. Not when Zap can find a nice impale. This is what I'm talking about. Almost certainly go get the farm, but instead they're just poking in lane right now.
Well, the timing of it is because the next wave is coming, so they would rather look for the poke, clear the wave, and guarantee this next purple buff invade, knowing that Mollusk is a little preoccupied on the right side of the map.
They've gotten split up a little bit, though. Joshy is dueling it out with Neilmah, but the purple buff still stands either direction. Actually, Neil lands another nice pull, and the ones who have pressure in mid are Paul and Sam, so they're moving over to red buff. Meanwhile, Zap and Neil are stripping purple. There's nothing for LG to farm.
And Joshy beads away against Neilmah's root just to get closer to the wave to not deny himself some farm. This is a very passive dueling out of LG, giving SK Gaming the early game that they wanted going into this second game.
Is exactly what they want, and this is how you have to play it, too, if you're going to go aggressive. So far, Neil and Zap have absolutely not blinked in this 2v2 matchup, and it's netted them a nice win. Meanwhile, Paul and Sam appear to have also come out a little bit on top, since they were able to complete a nice invade of their own and still have the red buff waiting. I wonder if they're going to give it to Zap.
They might, actually. And I wanted to talk about the very first invade that we saw, like around that first minute mark, and it's simply because if it's a Hunt Batz. Mollusk, if he made that rotation towards the purple buff, he was only going to be level 1.
Yeah.
And a level 1 Hunt Batz is not scary enough to stop an Anhur Sylvanus from committing to that invade, especially when Joshy and Kiki have to stay in the lane and soak up the wave that they couldn't clear faster than SK's dueling. That's
right. No, not really. He's one of those gods that very much comes online when he's level 5.
And that's why when Taco was talking about it on the desk, about guessing where this jungle pick was going to be, she said Thanatos. And I actually almost agreed with her because you need the global pressure. I think that's a huge key element in the jungle. When you're not getting Rat and you're known for this Ratatasker, you're getting it first ban against you.
Right.
Why not go for your second most aggressive option that also has global pressure? And if there was a level 1 Thanatos, maybe that purple buff invade would have been too scary for SK Gaming to consider.
That's a good point. They certainly would have at least thought about it a little bit more and worrying about having to tango with that early Thanatos. Though, like I said, I think that they've got a composition that if they're able to group up eventually without too much of a deficit is very, very strong. The problem is we've only just started here, Tully, and they're already down 1,400 gold, and things might get worse. Kiki knocked up, pulled right back in. Desert Fury there, another easy kill for Neil.
Oh my goodness, the setup was so clean. If you could just find any form of crowd control, you pop that Desert Fury, 75-second cooldown, CC immunity. It's just such a great look. Ocean's trying to do what he can to defend against that red buff, but it's just not enough.
Zapman in trouble. Remember, there's no ultimate available for him, but they don't even need it. Paul comes in. The whole rest of the squad is there, and they keep everyone away. Mollusk even gets pulled back in as well, and now he's going to fall to Paul. A double kill for the mid lane powerhouse, 2-0-0.
Neilmah is just so obnoxious. There's no more kill potential, but he's still just trying to do whatever damage he can on top of Ocean, and he's getting baited out because Kiki gets pulled.
He gets pulled back in. Neilmah's nuts. Man, I don't know, man. Maybe I need to find a quill and write it literally in ink, a formal apology to Neil, because I was real hard on him towards the end of last year. I thought SK was succeeding through Paul and Sam, almost despite Neil at times, but he's been playing so well all of Season 6 for this team. He really has turned it on for me.
Neilmah is the real-life Kuzenbo. He's just all up in your face. No matter what god he's playing, it doesn't matter. There was nothing for him to do by himself. But because LG were like, what is this Sylvanus doing? Like, get out of here. Like, you know, doing damage, wasting their time. At the end of the day, everyone else from SK Gaming making their presence felt. And yet again, Neil has been hitting these pulls, only missing one pull. And that was because Kiki dashed away, trying to get away from it.
And this is the kind of early game plays that do more than put gold and experience on the board for my money. I mean, some of these pulls, some of the plays that they're making have been so aggressive, so like in your face, that they can start to affect the way that you play the game in response. LG have got to remain cool here.
And they're going to try to bring on the fire instead of the coolness. But man, Kiki is just getting absolutely decimated. This level 5 Ganesh with only Shoes to Focus and Guardian's Blessing can't handle the double ultimates of the Sylvanus Anhur.
I can't believe it's LG, though, that were the ones that are being aggressive there into the jungle, and they do end up getting punished for it, as a nice Wrath of Terror there from Neil sets up Zapman. And I think he even had a pull that would have been on the mark had Oceans not dashed, so he's still being very, very accurate. Yet another one lands, though this time he's truly alone.
He is truly alone that time, as Neil was saving the Wisps for a rainy day. The red buff, unsuccessful invade, but purple buff otherwise out of SK, commanding 2,500 gold lead, not even 8 minutes into the game. And experience, it's only going to get worse and worse because the base damage numbers from this Anhur, it's not that great of a late game god, simply because he doesn't have any attack speed steroids. But what he does bring to the table is his early to mid-game presence, and SK Gaming have not slowed down. All the attention onto this dual lane. Zap 2-0-4, part of every SK kill.
And it's such a different texture of the game from what we saw last time, where they really left these hunters to their own devices through much of the game. And we saw Sam invading on the solo side multiple times throughout that early game. This time, though, it's just been the gas from Neil and Zapman. It really has been Sam coming over a couple times, but it's been all this dual lane facilitating for everyone else.
I thought the Raijin was going to be a problem, but it's actually Neilmah Sylvanus. Mollusk able to jump away with a teleport, but not able to get away with his life.
Yeah, I don't know what more you need to see from Neil, as a perfect execute comes through from Bellair to set up the double kill. Mollusk and Kiki both go down, and they'll come over to defend the blue Wrath of Terror. That should keep Xaliea away for long enough for them to secure the buff. But now he has a chance to try and chase down Bellair in the Lurking the Waters. He's even going to dive for this. He wants Bellair down, but he can't keep going.
I think Bellair wanted to try to intercept that dash to allow the tower a couple extra shots at the end of it all, but still. Oh, I was waiting for it. I was just waiting for that pull. But Bellair without a Fatal Strike is going to be difficult to really kill this level 10 Sobek that has an advantage, I would say, so far. With a 1-level lead, Xaliea has been able to really kind of change the path with his build. He's not going for Breastplate of Valor. He's going for that Shield of Regrowth.
And I'm real interested on your thoughts on this one, because it does make sense, right? It's a ton of sustain, it's HP, which is nice in lane. It's kind of effective against whatever damage that you're taking. But Breastplate of Valor is really core on these Guardians.
I agree, but if you're not rotating to team fights, it actually makes sense to go Shield of Regrowth, knowing that if you're getting ganked, I'll pop my Sickening Strike on you to get extra mobility to run away. And when I'm making these rotations, it's not until I have about 3 items completed anyway. So Breastplate of Valor can be the next item. So if you're looking for that right power curve, I think you can squeeze in this Shield of Regrowth before Breastplate of Valor.
And I wonder if it's maybe even about trying to keep him out of execute threshold. I don't know exactly how it would work out for him there, but having a higher HP pool might make that less likely in the 1v1, though I assume protections also makes it less likely. So I trust Xaliea on this one. He's one of those guys that stays in the lab. And I like seeing him trying some different stuff out over here in the Sobek. And so far, clearly it's working for him.
He's been able to hold his own against Bellair's Achilles. Sanford Soccer dangerously low. Great CC. Able to jump away from that ultimate, but still dies anyway.
Ocean steps in front of the Fatal Strike 2 to block it. What a brave play from the mid lane mage for Luminosity, though he might be in some trouble. Good job from Xaliea controlling him. And they find 2 on the right-hand side. LG gets some much-needed pressure relief.
Oh, absolutely, dude. They recognize the strength out of SK Gaming is on the left side of the map, and they want nothing to do with this level 11 Anhur that has a 2-level lead over Joshy. So overcommitting towards the blue buff. I think SK Gaming are starting to really spread themselves thin when they went for that objective. I think that they just need to lean on where their advantages are, and that's Paul and Zapman. This mid and carry position on the left side of the map is where SK Gaming have been building off of a lead, but now they're trying to really stretch it on this right side of the map, and that's where things can get dicey if you give LG any sort of momentum.
And they do have some there for Xaliea as Kiki gets pulled back in. Another good piece of setup there from Neil. He even body blocked a bit, and that's enough for Paul to complete the killing spree. They find one more, and red buff is just about to spawn, and there's no one in a Chaos side jersey nearby. This one's all SK.
A similar story between the Wrath of Terror Desert Fury. You can replace that Desert Fury with the Raijin damage and still find the kills onto Kiki. I like the patience from Paul also. Saving the ultimate, he knew that the Raiju Percussive Storm combination was enough, that they didn't really need to expend the Taiko drum. So that was a clean pick, and still having that Paul ultimate for a rainy day.
At this point, the carries for SK are too far ahead. And
Just a little
whoever
bit.
it is, whoever you plug and play in there is going to be able to do plenty of damage as long as Neil has that set up. What a great early game for him so far on this Sylvanus. And it felt like a bit of a surprise pick, too, because there's so many strong Guardians right now. Sylvanus doesn't always come to mind, but Neil been playing it well. As Ocean's forced to dash inward, Zapman quick on the response to the Desert Fury. That gets him away from the Fear No Evil, but Mollusk knows to hunt him down, but now without a jump, he's a sitting duck for Paul, who catches him out by the mid-camps.
A 2-for-1. They want more, though. Kiki using that Dharmic Pillars, but the long-range shots out of Paul gets him a double kill. Sam for Soccer gonna try to make it 4 picks if he can get onto Joshy, but no. Gonna take the win and look for the purple.
And this is part of why I think SK Gaming have earned so much respect in Season 6, totally, is because Sam's not even ahead this game, and Sam is so often the engine for this team that gets Paul and Zapman into gear. But this time they haven't even really called his number. It's Paul and Zapman showing and they're tearing things up. So really, at any point, anybody could be the one that turns it on for this team. I truly think Bellair is right in that conversation too. It's why I think they're starting to turn some heads.
I agree with you, Finch. Zapman specifically has been piloting the Anhur to damn near perfection, whether it's offensively finding the kills or defensively buying enough time for his teammates to play cleanup. Oceans looking for a play originally on the Agni, dashed in aggressively on not only Zap, I think he clipped the Gold Fury accidentally.
I think so too.
And that timing of Zapman's ultimate, knowing that the stun from the Agni was about to come out, actually buys him time to not only find the kill, but outlast the CC from Mollusk's Fear No Evil. Jumps over the wall, forces Mollusk jump, because he's flustered, I think, at that point. He's like, there's no way I'm allowing Zapman to disengage from this fight. And I think that's a little bit of star power as well when it goes to it, because like some hunters you'd be like, oh, okay, we didn't get this kill, whatever. Let me at least just live with my life, because as the jungler, you don't want to fall too far behind, but despite having 3 deaths, it's actually about a 1-level lead for the Hunbats.
It is still a good spot here for Mollusk. Though you mentioned star power, I wonder how much it's similar to like Tiger's win over the weekend recently, like someone who used to be dominant, but you don't see it as much anymore, and now here comes that dominance again. You're like, oh no, we got to shut this down. And I don't know if you can, totally. I don't know if you can stand in the way of this, as now Gold Fury gets pulled back in for SK. Luminosity certainly no, though. Mollusk has jumped to try and get here in time, but the Wrath of Terror is enough, and SK secure the objective.
And he got into combat as well, forcing the Dharmic Pillars out of Kiki just to save the life of his jungler. Blink is available for Mollusk if he wants to re-engage, but SK Gaming, after this objective, now have a 5,000 gold lead.
That's pretty substantial here at this point. They're even going to strip the purple, though. There's 4 members of LG nearby. Jumps away, actually lands onto Mollusk, who blinks underneath it. Fear No Evil doesn't come out in time, right into the Desert Fury. That's another kill for Zapman. Now Neil even finds a way to get out of combat, and even finds a pull. That brings Kiki right back in, and Zapman's right there.
He's going to find another kill. Sam for Soccer finds Joshy up top. Zapman finding Kiki down south. Bellair even finding another kill for himself. Going to get responded with Xaliea, but intercepting the pluck right there, and a stun against the Obelisk. If they find Xaliea, they're going to get a deicide.
Zapman finds it, completes the killing spree, 17-4 for SK Gaming, and they come out in full force. 6-1-6 for the Anhur, 5-0-6 for Paul on the Raijin. Man, this is a tough team to slow down sometimes, Tully.
They absolutely are, and LG are playing into SK's hands, unfortunately. That back from Joshy forced the objective call. Without the Hachiman present, it was a very easy, clean objective. Neilmah doing a good job zoning, even using Wrath of Terror, just to disrupt the potential contest there out of Mollusk. And then afterwards, the full-on commit yet again onto Zapman. Mollusk telegraphed that ultimate. He's literally walking towards Zapman. He's not jumping, he's not blinking, he's not monkey bouncing. He is pressing W on his keyboard. So as the egg is faded away from Zapman, he just straight up uses Desert Fury. He's like, I don't care about your Fear No Evil.
And I gotta wonder how much of it is just the Zapman effect, because I think Mollusk blinked underneath the jump from Zapman and ends up getting knocked up right at the beginning. And I mean, that's just one of those things that I mean, that's 1 out of 20 times that ends up happening, so that's unfortunate, but you're right, it was all around good play. And even before this engagement, 1-0-15 from Neil. Got to make sure I point it out as he makes another nice play on this Ganesh.
Oh my goodness gracious, the timing from Bellair, and even using the second Fatal Strike to disengage against the Fear No Evil. SK are on a league of their own against LG at the least.
Now part of 17 kills for Neilmah, so
wow.
yeah. If something good for SK is happening, at least right now, Neil is going to be a part of it. And now they're looking around the map like, have we left anything to farm? Like, where do we head at this point? Looks like Bellair and Xaliea are having a scuffle, and Paul and Sam are on their way. So this is going to turn from a scuffle into a tussle. And I don't know if that's what Xaliea wants. Tier 1 tower still firing away, but Sanford Soccer can tank it for now. Paul gets the kill and another clean pick.
Oh, absolutely. The Genji's Guard not enough to save his life against Paul's late game damage. I thought the Raijin was actually the issue in game number 1. But game number 2, it's looking like a whole different story with the way Zap and Neil have been playing, and now they're really flexing this lead that they have.
And Kiki, who's died 9 times this game, make it 10 as he takes another spill underneath the tier 2. It does so little for the team in terms of presence as a support at this point. SK Gaming will be able to shred through him so effectively. Level 11 doesn't even have a second relic. He's just way too far behind.
SK don't even care about the tier 1 tower going down on the left because they got a tier 2 on the right, and now in the mid lane, Joshy actually going to get taken out. Zapman calculating all this damage, surviving against the tier 2 tower shots. He has no fear.
Yeah, that one's on Joshy, though. I don't know if you can afford to step in front of the tower against an Anhur to block the shots. That man's going to do that one every single time. But SK Gaming grab yet another tier 2. It's only the one in duo lane that's left standing, and they strip some of the buffs from the jungle, too. This lead now ballooning out of control, 12k gold in SK's favor.
And last time, SK ended the game at 24 minutes, went for about a 21-minute fire giant, and with this kind of a lead finish, I think this game is going to be ending just a hair faster as long as they can get this objective, and all signs are pointing to it because LG can't even react. They can't even group up to find anyone isolated against SK. The only time they have been was that blue buff invade that SK kind of faltered against.
Right.
So that's something that they could look for maybe towards game 3, but this is something that they can't allow happen again, or else this set is over.
Yeah, you're right. They don't have any more chances after this one, as this one does feel a bit out of reach. It's not yet. If LG can find some ways to stall, maybe underneath these Phoenixes. Agni is very strong at base defense. Unbat's Fear No Evil can be quite disruptive too, as long as it's timed perfectly. But I'm with you, Totally, in saying this one feels like it's SK Gaming's game to lose.
A 19-minute fire giant.
Oh, he's outside too. That was nice.
Primal Fury about to respawn, and all of LG trying to make this desperado play for a tier 2 tower. But look who's around the corner. Sanford Soccer trying to maybe stall LG from backing for the rest of his team to clean up.
That's right. If we can keep them here, then they can keep on pushing. But I don't know if keep them here is the right word. LG are still pushing up. They're trying to loop around underneath the tower, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make that one happen. Sam goes right up into the air to the bat of the hell as Zapman finds Xaliea way elsewhere in the back. Joshy has to use the horse, but who's going to save Kikisocheeky as Mollusk falls as well? Oceans gets pulled back in, and yes, you have the beads, but it doesn't get you away from the Tycho drums. Unstoppable from Paul. Zapman looking pretty good too.
An impale right under the Phoenix. 4 dead LG members. Only Joshy standing as he mounted archery all the way to the right side of the map. And SK Gaming has a plenty timing window to be able to end this game.
Well, SK Gaming should be able to just push right up through this mid lane, at least start threatening some of these structures. They want the Primal Fury before they do it. It's hard to believe here that they're thinking about a second Fire Giant.
No, definitely not.
But I suppose they got to grab the Primal Fury while they can. They should be able to come get this mid Phoenix without much trouble. It's just Joshy with no ultimate to defend. The question is, do they keep pushing beyond?
I don't know if they're going to be able to get the Titan victory off of this with the respawn timers just now allowing LG all 5, but they're definitely getting the mid, and if they find the picks, maybe they do end even.
Well, Xaliea is already in some trouble. Bellair now the front line for the team. He continues to dash forward, though, and gets pulled right back. Frenzy coming out from LG, but even still, they can't lock anyone down. Dharmic Pillars, not enough. Kiki takes another seat. Paul cleans him up, but SK can't surge in just yet.
Oh, there goes the blink. Fear No Evil. Bellair dangerously low. Neilmah somehow is surviving. The pluck from Xaliea allows Joshy to clean him up.
That's a big ultimate, though, from Mollusk to keep this game alive, but Sam for Soccer, undeterred, finds one more kill of his own. It's 2 for 2, And now without the tanks, that's enough for SK Gaming to finally put the brakes on and slow things down.
Unless this is a bait. I can see
feel
the
like
Sam for Soccer waiting around the corner. Zap and Paul leading charge. Your carries are the one leading the charge. And Paul backing, hoping somebody's steps up to cancel that back.
It really does seem like they don't want to leave. They want LG to step up and make a misplay. But look at this. Kiki's on his 12th death of the game. He's not going to be dead for very long. He's right back in the fray. So it's tough in the 3v4, I think, even with this lead and without all that extra control. So they will wait. They will fall back. Give Neil and Bellair a chance to get back in here.
Fire Giant went down around 19:15, so that buff gonna fade away at 23:15. So another minute. Don't think they have enough timing to be able to back to base, spend their gold, and all regroup to get another Phoenix. But as long as that they can have all these Fire Minions pushing, I don't see a world where LG stops this next Fire Giant attempt.
No, I don't know if they even want to come out to it and take a look. I mean, like I said, they're down 14k at this point. It really wouldn't be able to make a very good defense, and unfortunately for Kiki, because he's had such a rough game so far, he only has the Sovereignty and Pestilence. That's 3 completed items. I mean, look at Neil, he's got 5 completed items. It's just no comparison as Oceans takes a ton of damage.
Still holding on to the relics, not using them quite yet, but he might have to consider retreating even further because he's going to get cut off by Paul. Kiki spawning him out around the corners. The rest of SK going to demolish this last remaining Tier 2 tower.
Oh yeah, this is a foregone conclusion. LG should think no longer of this structure and should instead focus on this Phoenix on the left-hand side. Their defense not set just yet, though. I don't know why SK wouldn't just push in. Yeah, someone's got to be here to say no, or else they can just go ahead and push right in. Kiki, Xaliea, and Mollusk have now rejoined. Neil's the one that gets plucked back in, but immediate Wrath of Terror for the follow-up. Xaliea has to leave while lurking in the waters, and the damage from Paul is too strong. Mollusk also in some trouble, but he blinks away.
Zapman forced to use the Aegis, the shell from Neilmah keeping him alive. Joshy takes out Bellair. Sam for Soccer is looking for Mollusk, though, but Zap gets taken out instead.
Somehow LG have held on. They've actually gotten 3 for 0. This is a huge fight now for Luminosity Gaming. Xaliea can't quite keep up with Neil. Now comes in the charge prey, right back into the EI Jutsu, and Joshy completes the killing spree. So hold on, Toli. There might still be some signs of life here from Luminosity.
A little too aggressive was SK Gaming, but a great hold out of LG, doing everything in their power to hold on to that left side. Phoenix can even shove out the middle Fire Minion wave, and with the respawn of this Fire Giant in about 15 to 20 seconds, they're the ones that can easily go for it, knowing they didn't lose anyone in that last encounter.
And like you said, just a little bit too aggressive from SK Gaming. Bellair in particular ended up too far forward. I also don't know totally if the target focus was there. They had 4 people at critical mass, but no one all the way dead.
Very much so, Finch. And the timing from Bellair's ultimate, he thought that the damage from Paul would have been high enough to find the execute. So the Fatal Strike was just a smidge too early to find it, to force the reset. And as a result, all of SK got a little too frisky. Zapman doing Season 1 Zapman things that I remember seeing with a jumping into the Phoenix certainly cost his team dearly.
Well, LG are burning the objective, and they have been able to confirm it. Bellair is still nearby, but he's also still level 19. So I don't know if this is the easiest Achilles in the world to kill. In fact, LG might need to keep on running. SK Gaming are chasing them on out of there. So this isn't an aggressive Fire Giant they just got. This is a take it away from SK and hopefully by time, FG.
I was about to say, if SK Gaming win in that exact location, I'm like, that's deja vu of the previous set, the Space Station Gaming set, and where Jeff Hinla fell in the rest of the Barracuda cleanup. But LG still having to play defense despite getting the Fire Giant. It does delay SK Gaming's push a little bit longer, but at least now they know that their Titan is super healthy. They don't have to worry about any sort of backdoor shenanigans with an exposed middle Phoenix respawning.
And now SK can go strip away this jungle as well. They got the red buff, Gold Fury's here, and this is all very important. If they're not going to push right this moment, then they can't allow LG to be able to find any free farm either. So they're kind of keeping the lead where it was. It'll just be moved up a little bit proportionally, but it should still be about the same distance between them with the way that SK have played this. So it's nice. It's a delay. LG are by themselves some time, but they got to do a little bit more than that.
And more importantly than the Fury itself is the red buff that was able to be stripped away out of LG's hands, where now it's onto Paul and Zapman. And that goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
When you're looking for any sort of extra damage to get anyone under that 30% health execute threshold. Bellair has been mistiming some of his Fatal Strikes in the later portion. That could be easily cleaned up. But SK Gaming have plenty of sustain in their own right. Sanford Soccer has Vampire Batz, the Blood Forge. Bellair on the Achilles has some sustain off that second ability. Zapman going for his double lifesteal yet again on the Anhur. Can't forget about Neilmah's Wisps. And I'm looking at the opposite end of it all. Out of Luminosity, right? Like, they don't have Cursed Ankh, but they do have the Divine Ruin out of Oceans. Brawler's V-Stick for Mollusk, even Pestilence for Kiki, so there is some available.
Mollusk, fortunately not getting pulled back in there by Neil, but as you said, there's even sustain now on the side of SK that LG have to worry about. I do also want to point out that Kiki's upgraded both his relics, maybe recognizing he can't quite contribute as a full-on tank, so at least increase his productivity somewhere else. I actually kind of like this mentality from him to at least make sure he's still contributing something.
That's right. At this phase of the game, upgrading Sprint to get the gas pedal Fatalis effect for Joshy, it goes a much bigger way than just getting a tier 1 defensive item.
Exactly. You're exactly right. So that's just good recognition from him. But this might be too far forward. Ocean's pulled back in. Beads come out right away to let him disengage. But now Kiki is too far forward as well. He's half HP. Sam goes right up into the air, but it's Bellair's damage that brings it home. Joshy blocks the execute. That's why Kiki's still among the living. But Mollusk goes down and Paul's divine.
So 2 for 2. Zapman leading the charge now, trying to find the obelisk, but without Fire Giant for SK, they're going to disengage. Not confident to take this 3-on-3 quite yet, but will strip away this red buff.
I think Joshy might just have to be the target in these fights. When he is allowed a little bit of room to breathe in these fights, he is able to get some good damage off, and even when it's not damage, he's just got good presence of mind in these fights. I like the way that he plays. So, I don't know. Totally, what do you think? Who needs to be the focus from SK?
Honestly, any one of those backliners, whether it's Oceans or Joshy, I'm not mad about it because you can't allow free bombs coming out of Oceans.
Those are good too.
Joshy has more consistent damage, like the longer a team fight lasts, just because of those basic attacks. But if a fight is going to be able to come in and out like in waves, I would rather take out Oceans.
Well, that man's silenced, but not silenced from throwing these spears. That's really all he wants to do as he walks Kiki down. Paul finds Joshy and shuts him down. Now it's just Xaliea in a 2v1 that I can't imagine he can win. Even the pillar there to block him. It's a double for Paul. Mollusk and Oceans just rejoined the land of the living, but that's SK all over.
Wow, Zapman, without a care in the world, he perfectly times his speeds, and he's still just pressing W and holding left click the entire time. And this is the one problem with an Anhur that is stupid fed, honestly. He's just able to do that kind of a pressure. Now having Odysseus bow doesn't have the most attack speed in the world, so I like the addition of this oboe.
Just to make sure he can come all the way through. Like you said, no attack speed steroid for the Anhur, so that is one limitation he has. Mollusk is way lurking in the jungle. I wonder if a nice Fear No Evil could potentially upset this as Zapman and the rest of the team try and force down this Phoenix.
He's trying to do it in the back. They're so dangerously low. Zapman will get taken out, but not until the middle Phoenix fell.
But Mollusk at least make sure he got Zapman out of there. It's just a question of is that enough, as one of those long-range Taiko drums does clip Oceans and bring him quite low. Now, without that extra damage from Zap, and without Neil, who just respawned, they're going to have to slowly fall back. LG totally have held on in this game. At 20 minutes, I thought the game was almost over, and now here we are 10 minutes later, now LG are still in it.
We're on the same wavelength, Finch. I definitely had that same exact thought. I'm like, you know, it's a longer game now than it was in game number 1, despite SK Gaming having a bigger lead in the earlier stages compared to game number 1. So LG doing everything in their power to hold on, and I think a lot of it comes down to the combination of this Hun, Batz, and Ganesh. Whereas in game number 1, the Achilles just wasn't really enough with the Kuzenbo between Mollusk and Kiki. So I like the difference here. LG realized rather, that it's not the Ganesh Zeus that really makes some of their difficulties for their opponents. It's more about the Ganesh itself and adding any other mid laner on top of it.
Wow, Kiki has rounded out that Ganesh build with a Relic Dagger, so we can have those relics up more often. Like you mentioned, the upgraded Sprint for Joshy to try and accelerate his relevance here in this fight. Really, though, you might have been more correct with Oceans. He's the one that's leading at least LG in terms of player damage over there with 19,000, a good 5K ahead of where Joshy is. So he's certainly someone to worry about on SK Gaming's side. This has not been free for them so far. They're going to get this enhanced Fire Giant for sure, but they got to make sure they play it correctly. Maybe they can't just do a straight up 5v5 at that Phoenix. Maybe spread out a bit and kind of break LG up.
Well, as long as they wait patiently for some fire minions to trickle down the middle lane, that could be their go time for the engagements. They just have to worry about the engage out of Mollusk. The Blink, Fear, No Evils have been so disruptive, difficult to really regroup yourself as a team against that one ability.
And look at Zap. He sold his boots for the speed elixir, but he didn't have quite enough to finish Titan's Bane. He's at the tier 2. It still gives you that, some of that passive, a slightly weaker version, but he couldn't get it all the way finished off, so keep an eye on him.
Mollusk getting chased away by Sanford Soccer, and that's so important. They are trading out jungler for jungler, making this 4-on-4 so much easier on the right side.
I mean, without the Fear No Evil, this LG team is instantly that much easier to beat. Oceans even gets hit way in the back by the Tycho drums as Xaliea goes down early on, though Neil is a little bit low too, but remember, he's got the Sylvanus Wisps. But now comes in the Fear No Evil. Joshy follows up with the mounted archery, and the silence kept Bellair locked down, so it's 1-for-1, solo for solo.
The shell was not enough to save Bellair's life, but it was enough to save Neil. And in this 4-on-4, Paul still looking for some poke through the wall, using the sustain from Fire Giant, using the sustain from Neilmah. Kiki actually going to dash in. No one there to follow up off of it, though.
I was worried about kind of self-rooting himself for a moment with Zapman nearby, but fortunately he was able to get back out of there. But with this sustain from the FG and the Sylvanus, they're nearly entirely topped off. Right side Phoenix goes down, and everyone should be out, though Sam's kind of lagging a bit behind. He gets away from Mollusk.
That's the jump from Mollusk, but SK Gaming can't capitalize off of it quite yet. Trading out solo for solo. Xaliea getting CC'd yet again. Long enough that he can't even get the ultimate himself off, where Neilmah knocked him up. The stun from Zapman. Paul even using some of his Tycho drums to keep that chain going.
So far, though, LG have bent but not broken, is how I would describe this so far. They have lost 2 Phoenixes. Those will be forever weakened and a much easier path back in for SK going forward. But LG are slowly buying themselves some times. They're nearing those 6 items. Ocean still with a bit to go. A Guardian's Blessing to sell for Kiki, so certainly still some more work to be done. But they're slowly and surely getting closer.
And that's where I think the Hachiman starts to outvalue the Anhur.
I agree,
in this late game. I think between Raijin and Agni, it's very close. I still kind of give a little bit of a favor to Paul. And speaking of Paul, he's 12-0-11, by the way.
Insane.
Out of nowhere.
36k damage, too, by the way.
It was Neilmah the whole way, though. Let's put it that way.
Like, yeah, I think Neil is the reason he was so far ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like 1-3-27. Give props to Neilmah on the Sylvanus.
That's absurd. Part of 28 of the kills. Still by far the highest kill participation. And no surprise, man. I mean, Neil has played so well so far this season. I've really just enjoyed just getting to watch him play, honestly, as the rest of SK push down the left lane. It's the only Phoenix that hasn't been injured yet, so yeah, why don't we spread the pain around a little bit? Man, I made myself sad.
Yeah. And the way SK playing against any team, they're so innovative. Like, they're able to just whoop out this Sylvanus Anhur in game number 2 of a best-of-5 set and absolutely dominate with it. This is what's allowing them to contest with the best of the best.
They're threatening the left side Phoenix. Mollusk nearby, ready for a blink. Bellair already low, and now comes the Fear No Evil. It catches Zapman on the back, and Bellair again goes down early, but Paul with max range is godlike. 13 in a row, even a double kill, make it 14. Xaliea in some trouble too. That's a triple now, coming out for Paul on the Raijin, and Sam for Soccer looping around the backside, says I'm not done yet. Ocean's in some trouble, and Kiki doing his best.
The blink is good. Ocean's going to be able to dash away. Sam for Soccer gets disrupted out of Kiki. Left side Phoenix goes down, and this Titan is going down, Finch.
Yeah, it is. SK Gaming, 34 minutes, maybe a little longer than you would have expected, but they claim game 2, and they now take a stranglehold over the set. LG would need a 3-game sweep to come back into this one. SK Gaming, man, they look real good.
They do. They're not probably feeling the best at that game, knowing that they had a bigger lead early game that they couldn't transition into an earlier win, but perfection. At the end of the day, as long as you get the W, that's all that matters.
And I wonder, you were alluding to this towards the end, how much of this is the Batz pick? If that's any other jungler, you don't have to worry about Blink, Fear No Evil. Maybe they could have finished that a couple of initiations ago. But even when things were looking good for SK, it's so disruptive on the backline and isolates Bellair that LG were able to get a couple picks.
And a lot of it came down to this Batz pick in terms of the lack of early game pressure from LG. That's what allowed the Sylvanus Anhur to invade at the purple buff. Say that was the Thanatos potentially. Maybe SK don't go for that purple buff invade, and that could be something that Mollusk and the rest of his teammates should potentially consider. Getting an aggressive jungler to contest with SK's early aggression.
But that willingness to go with sort of an old school dual lane, the Sylvanus and the Anhur, and then to play it like the aggressive lane that they know that it is, I love that coming out from Neil and Zapman in that game. Man, if Neil keeps playing like this, if Zapman keeps playing like this, then if I'm on Rival or Dig or Knights, I'm kind of scared a little bit, man. That is not easy to beat.
That's a strategy Zapman's been doing since the tail of time, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But the last game, or before Sylvanus was even a god in Smite, he was doing it with Bacchus on her.
Yep.
With the Belch of the Gods, with guarantee stun to support into the belly flop. Well, now you got a guarantee knockup with the Wrath of Terra, and all that tick damage is enough to find a Guardian kill. Kiki not having the pleasant game 2 that he would have wanted.
No, he's going to definitely need to make some adjustments along with the rest of LG if they want to bounce back in game number 3. I'm getting back over to the desk, though, so they can tell us what they can try and do different.
Man, I'm right along there, John. By the way, great call, guys. And as I said, I'm right there with John. Watching the classic duo lane. I mean, Zapman jump in and impale you, just wonderful. I'm all here for it.
It's a power move from Zap. When you pick on her, you are 100% confident swinging with that guy, and Zapman just did it perfectly on the Anhur. I think that there was a lot of really strong execution in terms of the pillar impales. There was also just a really strong presence in general coming out of the dual lane because of how well Neil and Zap were able to kind of line up their abilities. I think it worked out great. Numerous occasions, I think, even of seeing the Desert Fury right on top of the Wrath of Terra, and it's just so much damage all at once, and it's not really that surprising that Luminosity kind of struggled to find their footing in this match, but it wasn't, I don't think, as clear-cut as the scoreline might have appeared.
Not at all. Luminosity was able to kind of answer back a couple of times. There you see Zapman threading the needle between opposition and the wall right there. Here a little bit later. I wonder if we're gonna, man, there was a team fight on the left side of the map that was really impressive. Joshy walks in front and Zapman just punishes him for it. Well, I think it was Anatoly or one of the commentators that said, like, I don't know if you're going to do that against an Anhur. Maybe that's not the right call there, Joshy.
Nah, you definitely don't want to be the carry standing in front of the Anhur autos to tank them, and especially not wanting to line yourself up against any wall, much less your own tower. It's one of the more unfortunate ways to die, for sure.
And this was, Paul just wanted it to end. He goes ahead and cleans 3 players up just like that, and everybody walks in. We'll see, what was it, 15-0 and 11, folks. 15 kills without a death.
Well, Zap stole the show. There's no denying that. It's hard to not watch the guy who's just constantly jumping in with the Anhur and making plays happen. But we always seem to forget about the fact that, you know, Paul's still there, chilling in the back line and just destroying everybody, by the way. 44,000 damage on this Raijin. And if that doesn't tell you that Paul could basically do whatever the hell he wanted this game, then I don't know what will.
15-0 and 11 for Paul, 10-3 and 16 for Zapman, and then Sam for Soccer being involved in 20 of those kills. You look at the player damage, Paul's doing 44,000.
Zap a little KSer is what I'm reading.
All I know is number 2 on the damage charts is over 10,000 damage lower than what Paul was able to do here. And Zapman had a fantastic game, and I'm not taking anything away. And in fact, I want to celebrate it because what we saw last year, I keep talking about the growth of SK Gaming. What we saw last year from SK was the Sam and Paul show, and Zapman would kind of either be invisible or just be a role player. Then we saw the run through Worlds, and Zapman kind of understood and shined more as a role player. This is really interesting because as I watched SK for the first couple of weeks, Taco, I was concerned because Paul wasn't doing Paul things. Sam was doing it, the rest of the team was. Here, we see, well, Paul doesn't have to do Paul things because Zapman will turn up and be the star that he used to be. Also, Paul's online, too. That's bad.
Well, I also think that at least towards the end or the latter stage of a lot of the team fights that were taking place, Sam also shifted his attention entirely.
Absolutely.
He went from trying to be this initiating figure to then looking to solely isolate Mollusk on that Batz, trying to not allow this Fear No Evils to be anywhere near as efficient, because when the Fear No Evils connected, it was very easy, I think, for Oceans and Joshy to find some form of a cleanup kill after the fact, and then that would kind of stagger things a little bit too awkwardly for SK, which is why at times it looked questionable whether or not SK would be able to close it out. But ultimately, Luminosity just not really able to stand up against all the pressure that every member of SK was able to provide.